The gunshot ripped through the cafe like thunder. Glass exploded, screams followed, and a masked man charged in, pistol raised. People dropped in panic, except Marcus Hale, a worn single father in a faded jacket, staring at the terrified woman beside him. She wasn't just anyone. She was Evelyn Cross, a powerful CEO, and the gun was pointed straight at her. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. The snow came down thick and wet, blurring the city into a single sheet of white and gray. Traffic crawled. Horns complained. Winter pressed against everything, impatient and unforgiving. Inside Kendall's Corner Cafe, warmth struggled to survive. Coats hung heavy on chairs, boots left puddles on the tile, and conversations buzzed low, people hiding from the cold for just a few minutes longer. Marcus Hale stood near the counter, hands wrapped around a cheap paper cup. His jacket was old, seams frayed, zipper stubborn. He looked like any other exhausted man trying to make it through winter. But his eyes betrayed him, always moving, always counting exits. A habit he never managed to kill. His phone vibrated. "Sophie, 9 Dad, it's snowing harder. Are you close?" Marcus exhaled through his nose. Guilt came easy these days. "On my way," he typed. "Stay inside. Lock the door." He hesitated, then added, "Love you." Across the cafe, a woman sat alone near the window. Early 30s. Blonde hair pulled back neatly. Elegant coat, quiet confidence. She wasn't checking her phone or sipping her drink. She was watching the room, not nervously, but carefully. Like someone used to assessing people. Marcus noticed her because everyone else unconsciously avoided her table. Power had a way of doing that. The cafe door slammed open. Cold air rushed in, followed by a man in a black hoodie and ski mask. For half a second, no one reacted. Then the gun came up. The shot thundered through the cafe, shattering a ceiling light. Glass rained down. Screams erupted. People dropped to the floor. "Everyone down," the gunman shouted, voice shaking. "Phones out. Wallets on the ground. Now." Marcus didn't move. His body reacted before his thoughts caught up. Distance. Angle. The man's grip, wrong. His stance, untrained. Then the gunman turned toward the woman by the window. "You," he snapped. "Stand up." She did, slowly, hands raised. Her face was pale, but her eyes stayed locked on him. Calm. Too calm. The gunman stepped closer, breathing fast. That was when Marcus moved. He crossed the space in a blink, grabbing the gun arm and twisting hard. The weapon discharged again, blowing out a lamp and filling the air with sparks. Tables crashed. Cups shattered. The gunman fought wildly, panicked. Marcus fought efficiently. A sharp turn of the wrist. A shift of weight. The pistol clattered across the floor. Marcus drove the man down and pinned him, knee pressing into his shoulder. "Don't," Marcus said quietly. Sirens wailed outside, growing louder by the second. Police burst in moments later. The gunman was hauled away, shouting curses that dissolved into the storm. The cafe stood frozen in shock. The blonde woman stared at Marcus, her voice barely steady. "You saved my life." Marcus nodded once. Already backing away. As he turned, his sleeve pulled back, revealing a faded military insignia stitched near the cuff. Old. Deliberately worn down. Her eyes caught it. Recognition flickered across her face. Outside, reporters gathered fast. Cameras. Phones. Light cutting through snowfall. Marcus pulled his hood up and stepped into the cold, heart pounding harder than the fight itself. Because the danger wasn't the gunman. It was being seen. Behind him, Evelyn Cross, CEO, survivor, and now witness, watched him vanish into the snow, knowing one thing for certain. That man was running from something far bigger than winter. The city refused to forget the cafe. By morning, headlines screamed about bravery and chaos, grainy phone footage looping on every local channel. A masked robber. A mystery man. A single frozen frame showed a worn jacket, a blur of motion, and a sleeve with something stitched into it, barely visible, but unmistakable to the right eyes. Evelyn Cross watched it in silence from the back seat of her car as snow slid down the tinted windows. "Pause it," she said. Her driver obeyed. There it was again. The insignia. Evelyn's fingers tightened around her phone. That symbol wasn't random. It belonged to a unit that officially didn't exist anymore. She knew because her company had once buried a government scandal connected to it, quietly, efficiently, years ago. Whoever Marcus Hale was, he wasn't just brave. He was dangerous to remember. Finding him wasn't difficult. People like Marcus left patterns without realizing it: cheap grocery stores, school pickup times, neighborhoods where rent stayed low and questions stayed fewer. By evening, Evelyn stood outside a narrow brick apartment building on the city's edge, snow packed into the cracks of the steps. No security. No cameras. Of course. She climbed the stairs and knocked. Inside, Marcus stiffened. Sophie looked up from the small kitchen table, homework spread out, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "Dad?" "Stay there," Marcus said softly. He opened the door halfway. Evelyn stood in the dim hallway, coat dusted with snow, expression careful. Up close, she looked different than in the cafe, less polished, more human. Tired. "I won't come in unless you ask," she said. "I just wanted to say thank you." Properly. Marcus didn't answer. She glanced past him, at the cracked window sealed with plastic, the flickering heater, the child's shoes by the door. Understanding dawned. "I didn't tell anyone who you are," Evelyn added. "And I won't." That made him pause. After a moment, he stepped aside. The apartment was cold despite the heater's effort. Sophie watched Evelyn with curiosity, not fear. "This is my daughter," Marcus said. "Sophie." Evelyn smiled gently. "You're very brave, Sophie. Your dad is too." Sophie beamed. Marcus didn't. They talked quietly. About school. About winter. About nothing important, until Evelyn finally said, "They're going to keep looking for you." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I know." The man from the cafe wasn't alone, she continued. The gun was a message. Someone wanted attention, or leverage. Silence filled the room like snow. Marcus exhaled slowly. "I left that life behind." "But it didn't leave you," Evelyn said. She didn't push. She didn't threaten. She offered help the way few powerful people ever did, without conditions. A better school recommendation for Sophie. Legal protection. Security that wouldn't look like security. Marcus wanted to refuse. But that night, after Evelyn left, he noticed the footprints outside his building. Fresh. Too deliberate. Winter creaked and groaned around the apartment, and for the first time in years, Marcus realized something had followed him home. And this time, running wouldn't be enough. Marcus didn't sleep that night. The footprints outside the building haunted him more than the gunshot ever had. Too straight. Too controlled. Whoever had been there wasn't lost, and wasn't scared of the cold. At dawn, he checked the hallway camera across the street, pretending to tie his boot. The feed looped. Convenient. Too convenient. By the time Sophie woke, he had already made a decision. He walked her to school himself despite the storm, his hand firm around hers, eyes scanning reflections in store windows. Snow piled along the sidewalks like barricades. The city looked peaceful, but Marcus felt the old tension crawling back into his muscles. "You're squeezing," Sophie said softly. "Sorry, Peanut." She smiled up at him. "It's okay. You do that when you're worried." He didn't answer. After drop-off, Marcus didn't go to work. He took the long way back, doubling around blocks, stepping into crowded places, testing shadows. He spotted nothing, and that worried him more. The past never announced itself. It waited. That afternoon, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Evelyn, they tried to access your military records today." Marcus stopped walking. "Who?" he typed. Her reply came almost instantly. "People with authority they shouldn't have. They met at a public library, old stone, warm lights, security at the door. Neutral ground." Evelyn sat across from him at a wooden table, coat folded beside her. She looked calm, but her eyes were sharp. "The insignia," she said quietly. "I recognized it because my company once cleaned up a congressional mess tied to your unit. You disappeared before hearings started." "I didn't disappear," Marcus replied. "I was erased." She didn't argue. He finally told her what he'd never told anyone outside Sophie. Black Ops deployments. Missions denied by official reports. Orders that crossed lines. And the final mission, the one that ended with civilians dead and his name stamped with a silence clause. "My wife couldn't live with who I was," Marcus said. "Neither could I." Evelyn listened without judgment. "Someone wants to finish what was buried," she said. "And if they can't reach you, they'll reach Sophie." That name landed like a blow. Evelyn slid a folder across the table. Inside, false company audits, shell accounts, a security firm that answered only to her. "I can protect you," she said. "But only if you stop hiding." Marcus stared at the pages. Trust was a luxury. Fear was familiar. That evening, as he cooked dinner, the power cut out. The apartment fell into darkness. Sophie gasped. Marcus moved instantly, pulling her close. "Stay still." From the hallway came the soft click of a door unlocking. Not forced. Opened with a key. Marcus's phone buzzed. "Unknown, you should have kept running." Snow fell quietly outside as the cold came back, not from winter, but from memory. And this time, Marcus knew the past had finally found him. The hallway creaked. Marcus didn't move Sophie away from him. He lowered himself slowly, pulling her behind the kitchen counter, his body a shield by instinct, not thought. "Close your eyes," he whispered. "Count to 100. No matter what." She nodded, lips pressed tight. Footsteps crossed the threshold. Heavy. Confident. The kind that belonged to someone who believed the room already belonged to him. The apartment door opened fully. "Still choosing silence, Hale," a voice said. Calm. Familiar. Marcus rose from behind the counter. "Leave my daughter out of this." The man stepped into the dim light from the street lamp outside. Late 40s. Gray at the temples. A tailored coat that didn't belong in this neighborhood. Thomas Rourke. His former handler. "You vanished," Rourke said. "That complicates clean endings." "I was done," Marcus replied. "So were you." Rourke smiled thinly. "No one's ever done." He glanced toward the kitchen. Sophie didn't move. "Your unit's exposure would cause problems," Rourke continued. "Very powerful problems. We'd prefer cooperation." Marcus's fists clenched. "And the cafe?" "A test," Rourke admitted. "Someone panicked. Fired too early." Rage flared hot, burning through the cold. Before Marcus could respond, headlights flooded the apartment windows. Red and blue lights followed. Rourke stiffened. "You brought company?" he asked. Marcus shook his head. The front door burst open. Uniformed police rushed in, followed by private security in unmarked coats. Evelyn Cross stepped in last. "This conversation is over," she said calmly. Rourke's expression darkened. "You're out of your depth, Ms. Cross." "No," Evelyn replied. "You are." She handed a tablet to the lead officer. Confessions. Recorded threats. Financial trails tying him to the Café Robbery. Rourke turned slowly toward Marcus. Betrayal flickered, but not surprise. "You chose exposure," Rourke said quietly. Marcus met his gaze. "I chose my daughter." Rourke was taken away without resistance. After the apartment emptied, Sophie ran into Marcus's arms, shaking but unharmed. Evelyn stood nearby, giving them space. "I didn't want you dragged back into this," Marcus said finally. She met his eyes. "You were never safe alone." Weeks passed. Investigations unfolded. Names surfaced. Deals collapsed. Marcus's past was acknowledged, not glorified, but understood. His actions were sealed, his record quietly reclassified. On a clear winter afternoon, Marcus waited outside Sophie's school. Snow drifted softly. Children laughed. Evelyn stood beside him, no guards in sight. "I don't know what comes next," Marcus said. She smiled gently. "Neither do I. But you won't face it alone." Sophie burst through the doors and ran to them both. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Peace. And winter, at last, began to loosen its grip. Winter didn't end all at once. It loosened its grip slowly, day by day, like the city itself was testing whether it was safe to breathe again. Marcus noticed the change in small things. The way Sophie laughed louder now. The way she slept through the night without nightmares. The way he no longer checked the hallway lock 3 times before bed. The past hadn't vanished. It had been sealed, classified, buried properly this time. Not erased, but acknowledged. Marcus returned to work under a new name on paper, with protections he never thought he'd accept. For the first time, survival didn't feel temporary. Evelyn kept her distance at first. Not out of fear, but respect. She helped quietly. A warmer apartment. Better insulation. A scholarship letter that arrived without logos or signatures. She never spoke of debts or gratitude. One evening, weeks after Rourke's arrest, Marcus invited her for dinner. Nothing fancy. Soup. Bread. Sophie insisted on dessert. Evelyn sat at the small table, sleeves rolled up, listening more than she spoke. Sophie showed her drawings, snowmen, a cafe, 3 stick figures holding hands. "This is us," Sophie said matter-of-factly. Marcus froze. Evelyn didn't. She smiled softly. "I like it." Later, after Sophie fell asleep, Marcus and Evelyn stood by the window. Snow fell again, but gently this time. "I spent my life believing control was safety," Evelyn said. "Turns out, kindness is harder. And stronger." Marcus nodded. "I spent mine running from who I was. Turns out, standing still is harder." They didn't touch. They didn't promise anything. But the silence between them felt warm. Months later, spring crept into the city. Snow melted into rivers along the streets. The cafe reopened under new ownership, a small plaque by the door reading, "In moments of fear, courage matters." Marcus walked past it one morning with Sophie, her backpack bouncing. "You going to be late tonight?" she asked. "No," he said. And meant it. Across the street, Evelyn waited by her car, not as a CEO, not as a savior. Just as a woman choosing where she belonged. Marcus met her gaze. He didn't look away. Because the night he stepped forward in that cafe, he hadn't just saved a life. He'd stopped running. And in doing so, he found something winter couldn't take away. A future built not on fear, but on trust, family, and the quiet courage to stay. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.